Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Coach's Corner. I am your host, Dwayne, Dwyer, the Mindset Coach, and I am joined by my brand new friend, Mr. Mike Wheeler. Mike, how are you doing on this wonderful evening?
Oh man, I am blessed and highly favored, especially the fact that you and I get to come together and talk about some pretty amazing stuff today.
Yeah, man. Hey, look, do you guys hear his sound? Isn't it amazing? Like he was telling me backstage that he's we say 5 podcasts so far.
Yeah, this is the fifth one I've been on so far. Yeah.
And he has nailed the sound perfectly. Like I can't tell you how many microphones I've been through and how many, equalizers I've used different times. But man, when I tell you your sound is amazing, your sound is amazing. So I just want to say that publicly. I'm jealous of the sound and I'm jealous of the beard, just so that you know.
Uh, Hey, you growing what you got, it is beautiful and majestic.
I,
I'll just leave it at that.
I appreciate that. Listen, as you guys see, man, Mike is a fun guy, an awesome guy. But here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to attempt to do a good job at introducing him. So what I want to do is turn it over to Mike. And Mike, if you don't mind, introduce yourself to our audience. Give them a little background about the awesome individual that you are, so that they know who they're actually talking to.
Sure. No, thank you. So yeah, my name is Mike Wheeler. I'm a professional life, leadership, and marriage coach. My background, just growing up, I'm the product of 2 divorces. My wife is the product of abuse. And we went into marriage with the commitment that we are going to make this work and do whatever it takes to make it work. We have been married we just celebrated 18 years. We have 4 beautiful children. And the idea of coaching is something that God put on my heart. And I realized that there are so many people out there that don't have a great example of what a healthy marriage is supposed to look like. And again, just kind of how I stumbled into coaching is a separate story all to its own. But my goal, my life purpose is to help people. And I inadvertently stumbled across this podcast. Dr. Dwayne, you and I, we connected, things resonated, and man, I'm just excited to be here.
Let's tell you what, man, we're excited to have you. And again, congratulations on 18 wonderful years of marriage. Definitely looking forward to watching you celebrate when y'all hit that milestone of 20. And then looking forward to seeing 25, so forth and so on, because I'm that person. And they'll tell you, I look forward to celebrating people's accomplishments. So things like that, I get excited about. And I believe I'm the fortunate one, if I may be so honest. I believe I'm the fortunate one to stumble across you because I've been talking about what healthy marriage looks like according to the Bible now for a minute. And I think it's important that we go back and identify his design. But I think where we connected a lot during our conversation is you told me, some of the things that you do during your coaching practice. I was like, oh my God, like me too. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, man, it's like me and this guy, we connect. And then when you started talking about conflict resolution, when you talked about how you teach it, and I consider how I taught it, it was like it sounds different, but it's really the same thing. So I think that's an amazing piece. So what I want to do is I don't want to waste your time and waste their time. I want to go ahead and get started. So if you give me 2 seconds, I got like a little monologue that I tend to do before we get started, and then we will kickstart this conversation off.
Let's do it.
Outstanding. Have you ever found yourself in the same argument with the same person over the same issue again and again? Maybe it's about the dishes, the money, the schedule, or something you can't even name. You walk away hurt, nothing is solved, and next week it all comes back with a different face. You want a better life, you want peace, but you're stuck in a cycle you can't seem to break. Why does this keep happening? Why do our best intentions to resolve conflict end up making things worse? Here's the truth. Most of us approach conflict like a war. The goal is to win, to prove we're right, to make the other person admit they're wrong, and to walk around victorious. But to win, in this particular instance, an argument, you often lose the relationship. Let's anchor today's conversation with a powerful quote from Dr. Wayne Dyer. Conflict cannot survive without your participation. Today, we're going to unpack what that really means. We'll explore why most conflict resolutions fail, what your conflict reveals about your level of consciousness, and how you can use the law of consciousness to change your reality, starting from the inside out. So if you're ready to stop reliving the same arguments and start creating real, lasting peace in your life, this episode is definitely for you. That said, Mike, thank you for giving me that opportunity to go through that. And again, thank you guys for being here. Again, we appreciate you being here. You can be anyplace else, but you chose to be here with us on this evening. We're doing that lightly. So that being said, make sure that you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Go ahead and hit that like button and share it on your social media platforms because again, we're about to dive into conflict resolution. Now, I want to start off with our first talking point, Mike. And that first talking point is the war mentality. While fighting to win, it's fighting to destroy. Um, and from the book of Proverbs, it kind of tells us that the need to win an argument is rooted in ego and pride. The Bible warns us that pride goes before destruction and a haughty spirit before the fall. I believe wholeheartedly that when the goal of a conversation shifts from resolution to victory, both people tend to lose. The relationship then becomes a casualty. What are your thoughts on that?
I 100% agree with that. The thing that we need to understand, at least from a marriage context, we're on the same team. we're on the same side, and also understanding that conflict in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. But really, what it is it's simply an opportunity. Specifically, it's an opportunity for the two of us to connect.
Yeah.
And like you said, we treat conflict like it's a war scenario. And if you win the fight, what ends up happening is you end up like losing the relationship. You end
Right.
up sacrificing something that's so much more valuable.
Yeah.
In fact, I found that the things that we fight about, or well, the royal we, I suppose, man, it's stuff that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Like if we're gonna have a heated conversation, let's fight about something that legitimately matters.
Absolutely.
And the things that we fight about, like, hey, I prefer my steak cooked medium. My wife prefers it cooked medium rare. Like, okay, that's is that worth fighting over?
Absolutely not.
But yeah, I mean the thing with conflict, yeah, it's not a war. Like there's no reason for us to see this as a I have to win scenario. Why can't it be a win-win scenario?
Yeah.
We'll treat this as an opportunity for us to seeking to understand and actually getting to know each other better.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how long you've been married. Like I said, I've been married 18 years, and there's little things and nuances that I'm still learning about my wife. She's still learning about me. Not because we were the same person that we were 18 years ago when we said I do, but like time happens, life happens, we change over time. And I mean, just recently, my wife and I were talking about peanut butter because we were making lunch for the kids.
Okay.
And literally for over almost 2 decades, she said she preferred creamy peanut butter.
Okay.
And then suddenly she had a jar of chunky peanut butter. And I was like, where'd that come from? And she said, honestly, I kind of prefer chunky peanut butter now. It's like, how dare you change? Like you set expectations early. And then all of a sudden my world is ruined. Like, but of course I say that jokingly.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, conflict in and of itself, it's not a bad thing, but it's just an opportunity for the two of you to connect.
I love that example about the peanut butter because, I'm a creamy peanut butter kind of guy. When I was young, I was all about the chunky peanut butter. And I think the moral of the story is that people change, their likes and dislikes change. That does not mean they committed a crime, right?
Mhm.
So part of us learning, your partner is, getting to the point to where you can better relate to them and understand them and things of that nature. But then something may change. If something changed, that's okay. Make the necessary adjustment and change with it. It does not have to turn into World War III. I remember for me, when I was married, I didn't really make a big fuss about things. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, yeah, if you ask me a question, I'm gonna give you an answer. But that's just it. But the things that I did make fuss about, I did. And again, this is 20, 30-year-old me in the army, full of, testosterone and all that other great stuff, right? And so it's like when I drew a line in the sand, there was no moving that line. And I get it. I get it now. Even though I didn't make a fuss about a lot of things, the thing that I did make a fuss about, you have to ask yourself, just like you said, was it really necessary to make that big a deal about that thing? So
Mhm.
I get it. I completely understand it, and I love your point when it comes down to conflict, because I too believe that as well. I think conflict is an opportunity, and that I tend to call a beautiful train wreck. It's going to be a clash of egos if we just call it what it really is. But outside of that, it presents an opportunity for us to get closer together. If we deal with conflict the right way, if we deal with it the wrong way, now we got an issue. Like you said, we're on the same team. We should not be going into conflicts with the shield and the sword. That's not how we do conflict resolution. We do conflict resolution as partners that are collaborating, because the conflict is the enemy, not us, right? And
Mhm.
if we use it the right way, it brings us closer together. So I'm glad you said that. Um, I think Stephen Covey agrees with us on in that regard, right? He says most arguments are not really disagreements, but they are rather little ego battles and misunderstandings. And I agree. And if we treat them as that, nothing big, something simple, right? Then we can get over this hurdle. We can get beyond it. I don't necessarily believe that. I believe in the old adage that bad news doesn't get better with time. So if there's a conflict, not resolving the conflict today guarantees that it's going to come back tomorrow. Do you agree with that, or you see that differently?
Mhm. It may not be tomorrow, but it will come up again. And the longer you let it fester, it's like an infection.
Yeah,
Like the longer you let it sit, the worse it will get.
yeah,
And like avoiding conflict, like I understand the heart that people have is like, no, I don't want to introduce something that's going to create friction. And like I don't want them to think less of me. I don't want to think less of them. There is an element of that. It's like, no, I want to protect this person. But man, one of the most unloving things that you can do is knowingly and intentionally withhold the truth.
mm,
If there is something wrong, no, let's talk about it.
yeah,
And if it's not like a preferential thing, like I said, peanut butter and steak, like if it's something like that, whatever, like just drop it. It's not a big deal. But no,
yeah,
if it's something about how that person is behaving,
yeah,
maybe exact words that are spoken that maybe have a negative context that you don't know about, and like an attitude, a demean, like just something. Like if there's something genuinely wrong, then no, let's talk about it.
let's talk
Like
about
let's go, let's do it. Like, it's okay.
it. Yeah, I like that you mentioned, like, the way that we say things, because that's one of the things I had to learn, right? I could be right, but the way that I said it made it wrong, right?
Hmm.
And you're familiar with the Gottman Institute, correct?
I've heard of it,
Yeah,
but
yeah. So the Gottman Institute, they do a lot of work as it pertains to marriages and things of that nature. And they've gotten to the point to where they they've done so many studies that they've gotten to the point that they can predict divorce, and they have like a 90% success rate.
mm,
And they found that destructive conflict behaviors such as criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling are some of the major predictors of divorce and relationship failure. And they, like I said, they've been able to do this with a 90% accuracy rate. But contempt alone is the single strongest predictor of relationship dissolution. And I always look at contempt kind of like going to court, right? You're being in contempt of court. Well, when you are in contempt in a relationship, it's almost as though you're acting as though you're the judge, the jury, and the executioner. You get to decide what rights look like, and so forth and so on. It's almost like you're treating them as though they've committed this major crime and they're on
mm,
trial to defend their life. And so I believe wholeheartedly, and at the end of the show, I shared this book that I have, that kind of introduced me to the Gottman Institute, because I think they do amazing work. Um, and just the whole idea, when we think about it, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And we've done a podcast a couple of weeks ago on reframing the images of relationship, where we did not get past question one, because question one was us unpacking these four notions so that people can have a better understanding of them. Because I just don't think people really know when they are displaying contempt, when they're displaying defensiveness, when they're, when they're actually stonewalling in a relationship. I think a lot of people are unaware of that based upon your work with others and couples and things of that nature. Before I get to the prescribed question, how have you discovered these four: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling? How did you discover that they affect the outcome of relationships?
I discovered it because my wife told me. Yeah, my weapon of choice when I was a younger husband was stonewalling,
Mm,
and uh, there was a book. The title of the book is something to the effect of "Men are like clams, women are like crowbars."
mm,
And the idea is, guys, generally speaking, broad paint stroke here. When we get defensive, boom, we close up. Well, a woman's natural tendency is to open up, so she's gonna get the crowbar and like pry. It's like, no, you're gonna tell me what is going on.
right.
And again, broad paint strokes here. Um, but to your point, man, contempt. Like the way we politically correctly say it is, oh, we have irreconcilable differences, and it's like, oh man, that's a highfalutin way of saying contempt.
Right.
And fortunately, and this is probably by God's grace alone, uh, my wife and I, we went into marriage with really just the purest of intentions, and knowing that there was going to be conflict that would come up about things that we didn't know about yet. And we have been able to kind of grow and push through, uh, and just kind of discover some of those core principles that have helped us resolve conflict and deal with conflict in a healthy way. But yeah, I think it's important that we put words to them,
Mhm.
like you said, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. Having vocabulary to put on those things makes it easier to call out.
Absolutely.
And these are words, man, I wish we were taught in our pre-marriage class, because like the pastors that helped us, they were ill-equipped as well. So
Mhm.
I don't have any ill will towards them, and I think even
Sure.
they would admit, man, we had no idea what we were doing. We weren't qualified to teach you. But like just having words and vocabulary to put to those, that in itself is a powerful tool, because then we can say like, oh, that comes across as you're harboring bitterness against it. It feels like contempt.
Yes.
When you stop talking to me and just end the conversation, like that's stonewalling.
Mhm.
I would argue just having those words and having those vocabulary, that in and of itself is powerful.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, are you going to weaponize it, or are you going to use it to actually bring resolution?
Yes.
And again, just discovering early on, no, we got to lean into conflict. It's not something to be avoided. Not don't create conflict for the sake of creating conflict. It's like we need to grow. Let's start fighting. No, no, no. Let it happen naturally. But like when it appears, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And if you do call it out from a heart of resolution,
Yes.
not as a weapon to attack.
Yeah. I have this thing I've been saying for quite some time, and it's catchy, and I think some people adopted it as well. And to God be the glory. The most important person in this relationship is the relationship itself. I'm
Mm,
not more important than you. You're not more important than me, and vice versa. And then when I teach marriage, I talk about boundaries and what they look like. What
right.
boundaries look like when you're not married, and what they look like when you are married. Because when you get married, what I am agreeing to is I'm agreeing to not only take care and protect you, but protect everything that is your part of your ecosystem. So you don't have to defend yourself. I'll defend you. And then what you're agreeing to do is that, the same thing in reverse. So it's like, and I did this the last time, you look at these two squares that we're in, and you look at the extent of these squares as being our own personal individual boundaries. But when you look at a marriage, those squares now overlap, and they
Mhm.
overlap, and Christ is right there in the center of it. So he is the
Mhm.
most important person in this relationship. So my ego cannot take control and manipulate the relationship the way that I want it to go. And a lot of times we hide behind these four words. We hide behind our own defensive nature because I feel like there's no way out for me. Like, and a lot of that can be rooted in some insecurities that we have not yet resolved. And we're
Mhm.
in the space of relationship, and now I'm trying to hold you responsible for them, and you're just not making me feel safe according to my insecurity. So then I'm stonewalling, right? Or I have a defensive posture. So it's an interesting dynamic when we really start peeling back the layers and start unpacking things, and start sitting down and have people have honest conversations with each other, with one person in the middle, i.e. the coach. And it's an amazing journey when you actually venture along that path. So yeah, man. Let me ask this question because you've done some work with some people, and I think it's an amazing thing. There are times, like we talked about previously, when we may win the argument but actually lose the war. What do we actually lose in that relationship as a result of the victory?
Oh boy, that is a meaty question there. Uh, you can lose trust,
Mm,
which is a man. Like I would argue that trust is one of, if not the most important thing to have in a marriage. You, man, I mean, it can damage the relationship itself.
yeah.
Um, Something else to consider: what are the kids seeing?
Mm,
And so that's something that my wife and I have been very, very conscientious of is if we have a dispute of some sort, like I'm not saying, yeah, fight in front of your kids. No,
sure.
it is okay for your children to see mommy and daddy having a discussion where they don't see eye to eye.
Hmm.
That there's nothing wrong with that. It's when you realize, okay, this is starting to get heated. Maybe this is something that we need to put on the shelf for
Sure.
now, and
Sure.
then at a better time, take it off the shelf and then resume.
Yeah.
Um, your kids, man, they see so much, even when you think you have privacy, or even when you think they're not paying attention. So there is potential damage that can be done
Yeah.
because whatever standard they see presented before them, they accept as normal.
Yep.
Children that grow up in an abusive environment, they think that this is normal.
Hmm.
Children who are products of divorce, they think that divorce is something that just happens and there's no way to avoid. It's just part of marriage. You get married, you get divorced, and there you go. And like just like the words that we say, like it's the way I try to think of it is like every interaction that we have with people, it could be an investment or a deposit into a bank account, or it can be a withdrawal.
Yeah.
That was a concept from, at least the way I learned it. I'm pretty sure it's been used multiple times elsewhere, but I learned it from a book called His Needs, Her Needs.
Mm,
And that was where the principle was introduced. And the original subtitle of the book was something to the effect of how to affair proof your marriage.
mm,
And the idea was we all have bank accounts, emotional bank accounts. I have a
yep.
bank account with you, you have a bank account with me.
Absolutely.
And we can either make positive investments into it, we can do deposits, or if there's a negative interaction, it's a withdrawal.
Yeah.
And with our spouse, with my wife, regardless of whether it's a conflict or not, I need to treat every interaction as a deposit.
Yeah.
And there are times where, yeah, there's a withdrawal. Sometimes it's a really big withdrawal.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not intentional. But really understanding that every interaction is an opportunity to strengthen the relationship.
Yeah.
When we have an argument, a dispute, heated conversation, whatever you want to call it, uh, it there's potentially consequences. Some good, some bad.
Yeah.
But it really is about being intentional with every interaction,
Yeah.
and like treating, like not getting lazy in the relationship, so to speak. Like, no, we need to be very intentional with everything that we do with each other. If we drop the ball, it's going to happen.
Hmm.
But like for owning it, like, hey, like this is completely on me. And also having your spouse they have permission to call it out. Like, man, this came across really rough.
Yeah.
But I guess going back to the question, like one core principle, I would say you're potentially losing trust.
Yeah.
And with that, that is one major domino that can really derail a relationship. Because if I can't trust my spouse with my heart, oh boy, like there's going to be additional issues that come up. That means that I can't trust her with my emotions. What about my finances?
Yeah.
Like, well, if I can't trust her, that's a very, very dangerous thing to lose.
Yeah. It's so thank you for that. I love your response. And to your as I'm listening to you, um, one of the things that I know we as men tend to do is like it's when we find that person to where we start opening up and sharing like and I'm just using this as a phrase, our deepest, darkest secrets. The worst
Mm-hmm.
thing you could ever do is take them and use them against me at a later point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about derailing trust at that point. Like you've just taught me that I can't share anything more intimate with you moving forward. To that point, if I can add to what you're saying, I believe one of the big things that is lost during winning the war is intimacy. You
Mm-hmm.
can win the argument. You can even like, and I don't know if this is a thing. I pray it's not, but you can even like obliterate your spouse in this particular conflict to where you know you win and there's no doubt in their mind that they're win. But what does the connection look like after that?
Oh
Right?
boy.
It's, when you have that competitive nature, and that's the thing I keep talking about. I don't like competition in relationship. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a big talking point when it comes down to marriage. Like, if you're looking to find your life partner, you're going to have to lose that competitive edge. That
Mm-hmm.
competition should not exist. This is 100% collaboration. And that's the reason why conflict resolution is a very important talking point.
Mm-hmm.
So in conflict, we're not competing. Like that's what countries do when it
Mm-hmm.
comes down to conflict. They compete. And as long as they're competing, they deter war actually. But once they get to the point to either the competition gets so heated or one shows a sign of weakness, now war is imminent. I love to talk about I love to talk about who God the Father is because for love, joy, and peace to exist, war is available, but it should never be available in the marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's his nature. All of that is encompassing of his character. You see it in the Old Testament, right? Then you come to the New Testament, you see what that looks like. And I'm talking about me as a man now, I exercise those principles. I should exercise those principles of love, joy, peace, kindness within the confines of this marriage, this relationship. But that same God of war, to protect it, should be available, not because I'm out looking for war, it's because
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking to defend peace. And I think that's the key. And here's the deal, your spouse should know that. Your spouse should know that you will protect this relationship, this union at all costs. And I should know that about my spouse as well. So now, if we know that external of the relationship is the probability of war, if it threatens the union, then
Mm-hmm.
within the relationship, there should be no war whatsoever. It should be nothing but collaboration. It should be nothing
Mm-hmm.
but togetherness. It should be nothing but us continuing to climb this ladder to get closer to the most high. So I just wanted to share that piece because I love what you said. And I think you're spot on. Absolutely right. Trust is a huge issue. And a lot of times, some of us have an issue with trust because we don't trust ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, the words that you said, you obliterate your spouse. Like on the inside, that like just that hurt my spirit because I know that that happens. And like, what is the truth? My wife is created in the image of God, just as I am. And sure, I may be the head of the house. I'm the head of the relationship, but that does not diminish her intrinsic value.
Absolutely.
She and I are equals. If I'm out of line, she has the right to call it out. If she's out of line, she has the right to call it out. And there was a time where uh, I was just getting awful sleep at night, and it was affecting my overall demeanor, my attitude, my behavior. And my we were getting the kids ready for bed, and my wife straight up told me, "Daddy, you need a timeout."
Mm.
And so I walked away. I
Yeah.
went to our bedroom and I went to bed.
Yeah.
And come to find out, uh, my wife finished getting the kids ready for bed. She came in, saw me, and our oldest child was still getting like finishing up brushing her teeth, whatever. And she said, "Mom, where's Dad?" And my wife said, "Oh, Daddy went to bed. You know, I put him to bed." And my oldest daughter was like, said, "Like a child?"
I thought it.
and and it's like, you know what? Yeah, out of the mouths of babes. I
Yeah.
mean, I was out of line.
Yeah.
And the thing that was the kind of the picture that was painted for me, like the roles and responsibilities of a husband and wife. Let's go back to creation. God put Adam to sleep,
Hmm.
took a rib, made Eve. Why rib? And the way I heard it was, well, where is a rib? It's under the arm,
Hmm.
because it's our duty as a husband to protect our wives. But what's the job of the rib? To guard the heart. It is a mutually exclusive relationship. It is a mutual responsibility that we have
Yeah.
for each other. And in a situation where trust has been compromised, man, that is a heart issue.
Yeah.
That is a character issue. And if I do something that compromises trust in my relationship,
Hmm.
I have to own it
Yeah.
wholeheartedly. And the words that I've found, like eh, guys in general, like women are better communicators than guys are, generally speaking. They're just more naturally geared and wired toward relationship and networking. That's why God designed it, and it's beautiful. Us guys, not necessarily. There's excellent male communicators out there, but generally speaking, guys, it's not our forte, and myself included.
Yeah.
So what I found, I call it the 2-3-4 method of apology.
Okay.
2 words, 3 words, 4 words. 2 words, I'm sorry. 3 words, I was wrong. 4 words, and this is the hard one. Will you forgive me?
Nice.
And then you shut your mouth. And then you say nothing. You let the silence do its job. You let your spouse kind of marinate on that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Ideally, they say, "Yes, I forgive you." But now, this does change the dynamic of the relationship. The relationship we had when we were married, when we first got married,
Mhm.
is not the same relationship that we had after our first year.
Yeah.
It was not the same after 10 years. It's not the same today.
Yeah.
Our relationship constantly and continually needs to change and grow and adapt. Like it needs to be something different. There's the old adage of, my husband never says "I love you," and the husband's response is, "Well, I told you I love you on our wedding day. If I change my mind, I'll let you know." Like no, like no, we need to continually
Yeah.
like pour into our relationship. And change is not a bad thing. The relationship does need to change. It needs to grow. It needs to deepen. It needs to become something different than what it once was.
Yeah.
In a situation where trust has been compromised, again, this is an opportunity for us to redefine the relationship. It means that we need to take ownership of whatever that issue was, and how we take ownership of that. It's going to look different depending on the situation or the scenario.
Sure.
If it's a situation, like I said, stonewalling was my weapon of choice early
Mhm.
on. And my wife, man, God bless her. She is certainly wise beyond her years. she has been able to very graciously tell me, "Hey, this is coming across like you're stonewalling me.
Mm,
Like,
that's-
is that the situation? If it is, I need to own." It's like, okay, you're right. This is what I really feel.
sure.
But again, the ownership piece is, I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's wrong. I don't want to come across as being hostile.
Yeah.
Like, if that's my heart and intent, that's fine. Call it out. And there's been times where there was relational conflict with people outside of our marriage, and my wife was trying to help bring peace to it. And I told her, sweetheart, I don't know how to say this in a way that is like not hurtful, like, but that's not my heart, that's not my intent to hurt you, but
Mhm.
like, their relationship is their issue, it is none of our business.
Absolutely.
And if there is something we can do to help them, oh, cool, but I think, like, no, that is their issue, that's not our issue. And but I prefaced it with my intent is not to disrespect you, to
Yeah.
show you dishonor, to
Yeah.
be unloving. That is not my heart.
Yeah.
Like, and I just blah, just put it out there. And but again, that took time for me to even have that notion or concept that, like, I can kind of preface the discussion with, this is where my heart is. I don't know the exact words to use,
Yes.
and just be raw and authentic. And like, if I am out of line, call me out. And of course, again, two-way street.
Two-way
Uh,
street.
if if there was a lack of trust because of something that was serious, um, a relationship that was inappropriate, okay, like, I can forgive you in the moment, but there's going to be a lot of hurt that's going to be unpacked as a direct result.
Yeah.
You talked about having boundaries when you're unmarried, and now
Mhm.
boundaries when you are married.
Yes.
Boundaries when you are married, it means that, hey, I don't correspond with females that are not my wife or my mother. I mean, yeah, I love my mom. I got to keep in contact with her.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh, but like, if I do correspond with a female that is not my wife, it is very, very transactional. It's like, it is above board 100% of the time. More
Absolutely.
often than not, I will be proactive and tell my wife, hey, just so you know, I talked to so and
Mhm.
so about this particular subject.
Right.
Here's a text message conversation. Take a look.
There you go.
Because I don't want to create opportunities for her to lack trust.
Right.
So, like, for example, my wife's best friend reached out to me directly. My background is IT, and
Mhm.
her mother needed a new computer. And so I'm the computer guy that she knows. She reached out to me and said, hey, what do you recommend? And I, gave recommendations based on what was needed. And I told my wife proactively, it's like, hey, just so you know, she reached out to me. Here's a text message conversation, and this is what we talked about. There we go.
Yeah.
And my wife said, okay, it's not a big deal. And I told her, no, like this is a big deal,
Yeah.
because again, if the Lord will trust us with a little, he'll trust us with a lot.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to my spouse, I like, yeah, it's silly. There's nothing gonna result from that conversation to anything more than a very transactional interaction.
Yeah.
Irrelevant.
Yeah.
No, I'm telling my wife, hey, just so you know, here you go.
Absolutely. I love all of that, by the way. You mentioned the 234 apology, and I really do like that because you know what I heard in there? You did not get the opportunity to justify anything that you did. If I
Mm-hmm.
kept it to 2, 3, and 4 and then be quiet, I can't give any extra information. I can't speak too much about what's going on. I'm owning it. I'm recognizing that it's either offensive or it offended you in 2, 3, 4, and I'm quiet and I'm waiting. That is an awesome technique. If you guys didn't catch that, make sure that you write that down. 2, 3, 4. And if I get them wrong, correct me. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I was wrong.
I was wrong. will you forgive me? That's it. That simple. And if we practice, man, it's the little things. It's
Hmm.
simple little things that are just so amazing. So I love that because a lot of times in conflicts we show up as different people.
Hmm.
And I believe the problem is as it pertains to these things, most people they don't destroy the relationship with one dramatic blow up. Like I really don't believe that that's the case. I think it's something that exists over time, but they do it slowly through like four predictable destructive conflict patterns. Now, I'm gonna say these real quick, and I want you to kind of guess and figure out which one I used to be because it's a clear cut one that's in here. So the four conflict styles first start off with the avoidance, the peacekeeper, and the peacekeeper looks like the person never bringing up issues, suppressing feelings to avoid confrontation, pretending everything is fine when it's not, keeping the peace at all costs. And the reason why it fails is that unresolved conflict doesn't disappear, as we talked about previously. It goes like in a underground compartment and it builds resentment, creates emotional distance, and eventually explode. And the consequence is that you avoid the small conflicts until they become one massive relationship ending conflict. The next one is aggression, the bulldozer. And what this looks like, it looks like yelling, blaming, attacking, dominating the conversation, demanding to be heard without listening, using intimidation to win. And the reason why this fails is that you might win the argument, like we said previously, but you actually lose respect, you lose trust, and you lose connection. The other person shuts down or fights back even harder. And the consequence is that you destroy the relationship in the process of winning. Next is the passive aggression, the saboteur. What this looks like is saying, I'm fine when you're not, giving the silent treatment, making sarcastic or cutting remarks, punishing them indirectly. And why this fails is that you never actually address the issue. You just make the other person feel confused, attacked, and defensive. And the consequence for this one is nothing ever gets resolved. Resentment builds and the relationship slowly dies. And the last one is escalation, the reactor. It looks like going from calm to explosive instantly, bringing up past issues, name calling, personal attacks, making threats or ultimatums. And why it fails is that once you escalate, rational conversation is impossible. You're in fight or flight mode, and the goal becomes hurting them, not solving the problem. And the consequence of this is that every conflict becomes traumatic. Trust erodes and the relationships become unsafe. Each of these is a trap. Until you name the trap, you can't escape it. So, that being said, Mike, my new friend, who was
Hmm.
that? Was I the avoidance, the peacekeeper? Was I the bulldozer? Was I the saboteur? Or was I the reactor?
Man, that's a good question because I know you on this side of grace,
Yes.
and I have a hard time seeing you currently in any of those four. But hmm, I'm thinking you're either the escalator,
Okay.
the reactor, or the bulldozer.
Good
And
guess.
the reason I say that, I actually, because former military, I just think of the drill sergeants that are coming at you. It's like generally those are their two default modes.
Yeah.
is is being very direct, very upfront. But man, I'm thinking it's one of those two.
Yeah. I don't think you're wrong in I want to make sure that I'm getting it right. I know I was partly bulldozer, but
Okay.
I really believe I was probably more passive aggressive. I thought I would
Mm,
label myself as the passive aggressive bulldozer. I wasn't necessarily yelling, blaming, and attacking, but it was easy for me to dominate a conversation. Not necessarily demanding to be heard, but once it was game on, it was either my way or the highway. I'm just gonna be honest with you. And
mm,
that can be seen as intimidating. But I was also the other person to where you see something actively going on in my head and you ask me what's going on, my response is I'm fine. So
mm.
that's why
Okay.
I said I was I was in between because I wasn't really stonewalling, I don't believe, but to the other person, it appears to be stonewalling. It's just that I'm processing what's going on in my head. And until I finish processing, I don't really know how to say it. So I
Mm.
think that was, to me, again, for me, I say I was a combination between the bulldozer and the saboteur. Um, I can't even begin to guess. I would say, if I can, if you don't mind,
Go for it. Yeah.
avoidance. That's going to be the one I'm gonna go with, and I want to
Hmm.
talk about it again. And the only reason I said it because you mentioned previously the stonewalling,
Hmm.
and avoidance was never bringing up issues, suppressing feelings to avoid confrontation, pretending everything is fine when it's not, keeping the peace at all costs.
And then when things came to a head, I blew up. Nuclear warfare. That you're pretty spot on. It's interesting how the styles kind of complement each other in a very
Sure.
specific way. Um, but yeah, that was definitely me.
Yeah.
I would avoid conflict, and when things came to a head, boom! Like
Yeah.
it was a thing to see. I'm sure.
And here's the beautiful thing about this, right? Just like we played that little simple little game and we had some fun with it, you can do that in the home with your spouse, right?
Mhm,
Because here's the reality of it. You can have fun and learn something about yourself at the exact same time. And
mhm,
to your point previously, don't reject what your spouse is telling you they observe in you. That is objective feedback that you're getting on, right, literally in real time, and you're having fun with it. Have fun and
mhm.
learning about who you are. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just
Yeah.
I had a very
It's funny you point that out because a few weeks ago, my wife and uh, I don't even remember what we were discussing because it really doesn't matter at this point. But we were kind of going back and forth on something, and we both were like, "Are we fighting about something?" Yeah, we are fighting about this, and we both kind of said, is this even worth fighting about, or should we just skip the fighting and make up and move forward? And it's like, yeah, let's just skip the fighting, let's make up and let's move forward. And,
yeah,
and yeah, it was like we don't even have to fight. Like it doesn't have to happen. But yeah, let's have fun with it.
yeah. So to that point, again, you guys who are listening, have fun with those four conflict styles with your spouse. We literally just gave you a blueprint to progression before escalation even becomes a thing. And again, the first one is the peacekeeper, the second one is the bulldozer, the third one is the saboteur, and the fourth one is the reactor. Now, I do have a question for you, if you don't mind, because I think this is a very interesting one. Um, the Gottman research tells us that negative interactions hit 5 times harder than positive ones. So, going back to your point about deposits and withdrawals, that's why it's important for us to constantly make deposits without necessarily intentionally making a withdrawal. So, you just keep making deposits. So, that being said, my question for you, sir, is what investments can be made in our relationships emotional bank account to counter?
So sticking with the banking analogy,
Mhm.
going to a bank requires work. And when we deposit money in a bank account, we want to do it in like one big transaction. Like we like to see the bank account increase by like 4 or 5 figures, boom, all in one.
He's talking about men, by the way. That's how we do business. I'm just being honest. Hey,
No, fair enough. But when it comes to our emotional bank accounts, no, it's about those little dividends. Like if I invest into a stock or an ETF, it's what 10 cents a month or
true.
20 cents a quarter. Like that is actually a more accurate reflection of how we invest in our relationships. It could be just sending my wife a text, "Hey, just want to let you know I love you."
Mhm.
It could be, "Hey, I saw this picture of something like, hey, I was walking by and I saw some lilies. My wife loves lilies. So I took a picture, sent it to her, thought of you." Maybe I'm scrolling on social media and I see something that would resonate with her and her hobbies and her interests. Maybe it's related to homeschooling, maybe it's related to motherhood or And it doesn't have to be something positive either.
Yeah.
Hear me out. It's like, hey, I saw this post and I thought it was all wrong. What do you think about it?
Mm,
And that then creates an opportunity for us to connect.
yep.
I agree, I disagree, whatever it is. Really, it's more about the thoughts that you have for your spouse. Another kind of indirect way of investing into your relationship, talk about your spouse to other people.
Mm,
My background is IT, which generally is fairly male dominated. So when I was in the office frequently, if I had a peer that was female, the very first time I meet them, what's the very first thing I talk about? I'm happily married. My wife is awesome. I never speak ill of my wife to anybody else. Even if there is something going on between me and my wife, it's none of their business.
absolutely.
And what I'm doing is I'm investing into her bank account, even though it's not necessarily directly investing into her, but it further solidifies my relationship with my wife.
Absolutely.
And I make it very clear up front how awesome my wife is. To be fair, she actually is awesome. But there was times when my wife would come to the office to have lunch with me. Maybe she had an opportunity in the day to have lunch, and I would introduce her to my coworkers. Who were the very first coworkers I introduced her to? My female coworkers. Not that there would be anything that would happen between me and a female coworker. It's irrelevant.
Right.
If there is something that happens, not from my side, but maybe from their side, I want them to see the face. I want them to know the name. I want them to look into the very eyes that they would potentially be compromising.
Yeah.
Is it extreme? Some would say maybe so. But you know what? The most valuable relationship I have outside of my relationship with Jesus Christ, the most valuable relationship I have is with my wife.
Yeah.
My children, they know that they can't pit mommy versus daddy. They're on the same team. I can't put them against each other. And eventually my kids are going to be leaving. They're going to be out of the house. And then it's just going to be me and my wife. I'm looking forward to that day. Like, I love my kids. I love them to death. But no, like I am look like the day that we are empty nesters, man, we're going to go to Disneyland. We're going to go on a trip. Like, we're going to do something to celebrate because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, we can't just ignore our wife, ignore our spouse, and then once every 6 months we take a gigantic vacation and rekindle. Like, no, it is a very much an active process, but it doesn't have to be big deposits every single time. It can be a little deposit. It
Sure.
could be, like I said, sending a text, I love you, or hey, you packed this specific thing in my lunch. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's not the big things that really amount to that strong foundation. No, it really is the little things. It's those little things over time that compound into that strong relationship that create value in the relationship. So again, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be really simple, and it feels weird too. Like you said, us as guys, we want to make those big deposits in the bank account. It feels weird to just point out a little thing.
Yeah.
Weird is good. It's okay. But I dare you to do that for 30 days and then tell me that your relationship isn't better. Like, just throwing down a challenge. Try it out.
I think we make things harder than what it has to be.
Mhm.
And I'm a man. I can talk about us all day. And I wasn't joking. Just like, Mike just said, we think if we make one big deposit, then that's going to get me unlimited returns. And that may work in the banking industry. If I go deposit a check now for $50,000, I get more return on my investment than if I do for $5,000. That is a unquestionable truth that we know, everybody knows, but it doesn't work that way with people. When you start dealing with people, like, no, it doesn't work that way, especially when the closer that person gets to you, because let's be completely transparent. Understanding who you're in relationship with matters. That helps you to understand how to communicate with them better. Are they talkers? Then if they're a talker and you're not a talker, you need to learn how to become a talker. I'm sorry. It's like you said, like Mike said, it's going to be uncomfortable. Great. Uncomfortable means that I'm growing. So that's not a bad thing, right? If They are like understanding how they receive information is important. We do it all the time in the business sector. If they like visual cues, then ensure that you capture their attention visually. Like there are certain things in the human psyche that attracts them. Look at marketing plans. And I'm not telling you to market to your spouse, right? But look at marketing plans. They capture your attention auditorily, they capture your attention visually, and then they hit you with the information. Most men, it's like strip all that, give me the information so I can make a decision. That's me, but that's not necessarily her. So I need to understand, if I want her to make a particular decision that is advantageous for her, I may need the sound, I may need the color, I may need all those things to go along with it. And I'm only using that as an analogy because that's what it's like communicating to somebody when you understand how they receive information.
Mhm.
Asking simple questions is important. Connecting is more important, right? Let's let's
Mhm.
let's start there. We confuse talking as communication. It is not. You need to connect first. Asking how was your day is a great starting point, but listening is even better. I think a lot of times we ask how was your day just to make sure that we got that out the way, and then they start talking like unplug. But I also believe also believe that we need to establish boundaries within that as well. Because if I ask you how was your day, I'm not asking you to articulate the details of your job. I am asking you how was your day. It's to me, I think it's very simple, but because we're conditioned to do certain things, those things do not afford us to connect to our spouse. But if I make you realize that I'm asking you about your day, not your job is not who I'm married to. I'm married to you. How was your day? Now you realize I'm he's trying to connect with me. Let me open up to him about me. And then after doing so, let me ask him how was his day. And I'm gonna tell you how my day was. One word, fine, whatever the case may be. It's not, listen, I'm not because I intentionally, and this is just me, and Mike may be a little different, and there's nothing wrong with a little different. But I don't want to bring my job and lay it on a platter and present it to you. I don't want you to do that to me either, because I think a lot of times we allow our jobs to get in between our relationships, right? My job is what I do, it's not who I am. I
Mhm.
only want to stay connected to you according to who I am, not what I do. You know what I do. That's fine. I know what you do. That's fine. But let's stay connected at the I am level, right? Because now that's where connection exists. And so when we have conversation, we should have conversation about us. How do we get better? How can I help? Like maybe you had a bad day,
Right.
right? And maybe that means you may need to articulate a thing from the job that made your day bad. That part is okay, right? But if it's everyday job, no, time out. We kind of got
Mhm.
this mixed up right now. So if you're telling me you had a bad day, that means okay, cool. Sit down, relax, take a load off. I'm gonna go and get dinner ready while you sit there and unwind. Want me to bring you, some water, some juice, maybe a glass of wine? Your choice, right? You let me know. Right. And there's nothing wrong drinking wine, y'all. Don't look at me like that. So that's okay, but that's what that connection piece does. Maybe you have young kids that are involved in football and basketball and the chess club and performing arts and all kind of stuff like that. And will you say you got 4 kids and we got to get the kids to different venues? Well, we may need to split these responsibilities because some of these things are happening at the same time. Well, I can't play Al Bundy sitting on the couch watching TV while she's driving all around town. It just doesn't work
Mhm.
that way. She is not going to feel like I'm making any. In fact, that's a withdrawal. I'm sorry. If she is doing for the kids and you sitting there, that's a withdrawal. You're not making a deposit. And eventually the bank account's going to run dry. And then now you're going to be forced with showing up with one of these 4 conflict styles simply
Mhm.
because she's going to call you out, like Mike said. And you're probably not going to have a good response to her.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
also believe, I'm sorry, you're about to say something?
No, I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Yeah.
Some of the things that come up as you're talking, the the words that we say will have completely different meanings
Mhm.
coming from a man versus coming from a woman. And you're pointing out, it's like, how was your day? Fine. Like that. When a woman says something is fine, it ain't fine. When a guy says it was fine, it probably is fine. The another example is like if we're getting ready for a date of some sort. If I say I have nothing to wear, what does that actually mean? For guys, it means I need to do laundry. Like I literally have nothing to wear. When a woman says she has nothing to wear, what does it usually mean?
She's about to go shopping.
I'm looking in my closet. I have nothing new to wear. I don't like
Right.
anything that's in. No, I have nothing new to. Time to go shopping.
Yep.
Exact same words have completely different meanings based on man versus woman. And again, it's not wrong. It's just different.
Yeah.
And the situation where, like you said, you're talking about being Al Bundy sitting on the couch, hand in your pants, beer in your hand. Just recently, I get off work and I could tell my wife is stressed. She is trying to figure out what we're doing for dinner, this, that, and the other. There's a bunch of stuff that's going on, and literally, I stepped in and I told her, wife, stop. Here's what we are going to do. We're going to go out for dinner. I know it's not in the budget. We'll figure it out. We're going to go out for dinner. It's one less thing you have to worry about. And once dinner is done, I'll put the kids to bed and then we'll work on this project.
Yeah.
And so what do? We go out to dinner, have a good time. I put the kids to bed. And my wife tells me afterward, thank you so much for doing that. Like that was ministry to me, because like she recognized that, man, she was spiraling downward. And just one of the duties that we have as men and as husbands is to protect our family. And I could tell that my wife, mentally and emotionally, spiritually, she was going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And again, I stepped in, and some folks may say, well, that was very curt the way you did it. Well, again, I have a great deal of trust with my wife. She knows that if I come across as curt or direct or like assertive or domineering, it's not to like control the situation per se. No, it's because like stop. Like what we were doing, we need to stop it immediately and then change of plans. And so again, it goes back to trust. She's known me long enough to know that that's not my intent to hurt, but I saw that there was a definitive issue. I stepped in and I took action. Yeah. And in the moment, she may not have realized it, but then afterwards, she circled back and said, thank you.
Absolutely. That reminds me of, oh man, I love saying this, and I haven't said it in a while. Men have a responsibility to calm the storm. That's just it. It's an exact replication of Christ on the boat, where when they came and got him, and Master, do you not care if we perish? Right. And then finally he gets up and then says, peace be still. That's the exact same thing you did. You probably won't get it in the midst of it. Right. You just see these whirlwinds happening and things of that nature, books flying across the room and, the spoon levitating and stuff like that. And then you come around the corner and be like, stop. And then everything just drops. And I'm exaggerating with that example, but it happens a lot. In the midst of it, sometimes she may be forced to respond. She may feel the need to respond. But if we can just suspend judgment long enough to allow the storm to calm down, then you can actually see why he did what he did. So I love the fact that you said that. And I think if a lot of couples will actually understand that it's not a verbal attack against her. It's not suppressing her being. It's not any of those things. He is protecting his wife. That's a whole nother conversation. So man, I thank you for that. I'm going to skip the next section, but I do want to kind of give it to the people real quick. Remember, we just got finished talking about the 4 conflict styles, and talking point number 3 was about the consciousness mirror, what your conflict style reveals about you. And ultimately, the conflict style isn't just a habit, it's a mirror of your level of consciousness and spiritual maturity. And you guys are familiar with Dr. Hawkins because I showed you guys that graph previously. And Dr. Hawkins says our internal state of awareness exerts a more significant influence on our life events than external factors. And then Eckhart Tolle says you find peace not by rearranging the circumstance of your life, but by realizing you are at the deepest level. And then, of course, my not so cousin, Dr. Wayne Dyer, adds the ego promotes turmoil because it wants to substantiate your separateness from everyone, including God. So, that being said, that's what those styles reveal to us. Now we're going to transition into talking point number 4, which is still about the law of consciousness, how to change your inner world to change your conflict reality. Now, moving forward, the law of consciousness teaches that your inner state shapes your outer reality. If you want to change the conflict patterns in your relationships, you must first change what's happening inside of you. I cannot calm an external storm when I have internal tornadoes and hurricanes happening inside of me. It's just not going to happen. Again, my not so cousin, once you put your attention, your thoughts, your energy, your consciousness on a new intention, that's when and what you begin manifesting in your life. Last one is Eckhart Tolle adds, non-reaction to the ego in others is one of the most effective ways, not only of going beyond ego in its yourself, but also of dissolving the conflict, the collective human ego. So we talked the other day, and you started laying out your rules for conflict resolution, and I loved it so much that I want you to articulate those to again, so I can hear them again. I'm being selfish. No, I'm joking. I want to hear them again, but I want the audience to hear how. I mean, I just love the way you do it. So let me just turn it over to you. How would you describe your rules of conflict resolution?
So there's three principles that I found for resolving conflict. The first principle is to listen. We talked about how this is simple, like it really is simple. But what is your motivation to listening? More often than not, our motivation to listen is to respond. It's like I'll listen just enough until I hear a chink, I hear a flaw, and then boom, I'm going to go in and tell them how it really is. No, when we listen, we are listening to understand. And if we do interrupt, it is for the sole purpose of seeking additional understanding, seeking additional clarity, where it's like, hey, you said these words. What I heard you saying was this. Is that correct? Did I hear you right? Mm-hmm. Yes, you did. Oh, okay, continue. Or no, that's not what I meant. What I really mean is, okay, please continue. So principle number 1 is to listen. Don't listen to respond, listen to understand.
Yes.
The second principle is you need to assume. Now, I'm sure most people hear this and it's like, whenever I assume, I get in trouble. And my question to you is, well, what are you assuming?
Yes.
Oftentimes, when we make assumptions in a heated discussion, like I assume that she's disrespecting me because she does not respect me, because she wants her own way. I was like, well, no, again, we're on the same team. What if we started assuming the best in each other?
Mm-hmm.
What if there's more to the story that maybe I just don't have visibility to?
Yeah.
Like I said, we got 4 kids and they range from 2 to the age of 11. And so there's a pretty wide gap in terms of age from youngest to oldest. We're starting to get to a point where we're actually sleeping all the way through the night. So like I'm starting to get some color back in my face, and I'm like it's a wonderful time. But you know what? Those early months, early years of having a baby, man, they're rough. Like it's beautiful. It is wonderful, but man, it can take a toll on you. Mm-hmm. And I remember when my wife was first a mother, and I was a father too. Now she didn't do it on her own. I was there. But there was one particular Sunday morning where, man, she was just not in a good mood. And like everything I was doing was wrong. And we get in the car, and I don't say anything because I'm really trying to have grace. And we get in the car, and then she starts criticizing my driving. Yeah, and so I remember exactly where we were. We were on the corner of 290 and 35, about to get on 35 South, and I look at her and I say, "Is there anything else you'd like to point out I'm doing wrong today?" Because I am such a wise man. But my wife, in all her wisdom, she looks at me and like gasps, like, but then she stops
Mm-hmm.
and she looks back at me and says, "Is that really how I sound right now?" She assumed the best in me, even though what I said was not, I was out of line. She assumed the best in me. And I said, "Yeah, that is how you're coming across. Is everything okay?" And she said, "No, because the baby didn't sleep." And she just unloads, and I listen.
Yeah.
I don't listen to like resolve the issue. I just listen. I just let her emotionally evacuate.
Yep.
And then, so I tell her, "I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do to help?" And she said, "Honestly, just hold my hand." I was like, I can do that. I know how to do that well. Uh, but the last piece of conflict resolution is taking ownership.
Mm.
We listen to understand. We assume the absolute best in our spouse. We don't assume ill intent. We assume the best. And then we take ownership of whatever it is that we can.
Yeah.
If I'm in a car accident, and the insurance company says I'm 45% at fault, my response should not be, "Well, because it's not entirely my fault, I don't have to worry about it." Like, well, no, that still means that you contributed to the accident happening. May not have been the majority of it, but you still contributed to it.
That's right.
If I'm 90% at fault, if I'm 1% at fault, whatever it is, take ownership of it.
Indeed.
Small, large, irrelevant. If there's something that I did to contribute to the situation, I take ownership of it. And depending on whatever that issue is, it could be just as simple as the 2, 3, 4. I'm so sorry. Like, I was wrong. Will you forgive me? And it could be as simple as that. It could be more extreme. Like we were talking earlier, if trust has been compromised.
Yes.
Trust may look like I don't drive down that street anymore because there's people in restaurants and stores that I have no business being near.
Mm-hmm.
Ownership could be, you know what? I behave this way because my faith life is nowhere what it needs to be. And ownership looks like I get my butt in church every week. Whenever the doors are open, I'm there.
Yeah.
It could be something more extreme, like I need to go to rehab. I need to talk to a counselor. I have something, like you said, storm outside. Doesn't matter. If I got a storm inside of me, that storm ain't like, let it rain because
Absolutely.
I'm storming inside. Ownership is something that we want to shift the blame on. And
Mm-hmm.
so often it looks like, I'm sorry that I did this, but if you hadn't done, like, no.
Yep.
My emotional state is my issue. If there are things that contribute to it, totally understandable. We're all human. But if I have someone coming at me, that does not suddenly mean I am justified to use whatever force I deem fit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no. If I stub my toe, I don't have the right to take it out on my wife and kids.
Yeah.
If I have a hard day at work, I have no right to take out my children and have them be the collateral damage of someone else's choices. No.
Absolutely.
No. If I have a hard day at work, like you said, like we openly talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it means like, just give me a few minutes of silence, because I just need to just emotionally decompress.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even leading with that. I had a hard day at work. I'm honestly not in that great of a mood. Let's problem solve together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can do this on my own. Some things I can, but ultimately, nah, I ain't that good. And
Yeah.
I doubt anyone else is. At the very least, we are hopelessly and completely dependent on Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
We're all in desperate and dire need of a Savior. And hey, it's okay if you have a problem. It's a matter of what do you do once that problem has been identified.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's that ownership piece. That's the thing that breaks generational curses.
Hmm.
That
Absolutely.
is ownership is this is where the line is drawn. My children will not experience what I experienced growing up. My children will not know what it's like to have parents that are divorced.
Yeah.
My children will not have to ask the question, I wonder if I should call the police.
Mm.
And that is something like the biggest concern my children should have, at least at their current age and stage, is like, falling off the slide at the playground. Like that really should be their biggest concern.
Right.
But when issues come up, it should not be because I put that issue into them.
Sure.
It stops with me.
Yeah.
And that was the commitment that my wife and I made the very day that we said I do.
That's good.
Like
That's
if we got issues, we are going to work it out. Of
absolutely.
course, we were flippantly ignorant on exactly how to do it and what that was going to look like. But we both came from a position of humility and said, you know what? If we got to learn something, if we got to change, that's what we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. I'm gonna build this airplane in flight. I love it. Listen, I get it, man. That's a lot of that happens a lot. One of the things I heard you say just now, and I think people do well to capture this. A lot of times we confuse the differences between contributing factors and determining factors, right? Um, we're not denying the fact that a contributing factor exists, but the contributing factor was not the determining factor of the outcome. So let's spend less time talking about contributing factors and spend more time focused on determining factors because determining factors are where changes are made. And with that being said, I want to give you guys real quick after Mike has expertly given us his 3 rules to conflict resolution, I want to give you a 7-step conflict resolution framework and watch how they go with inside his rules, right? So, step number 1, pause and regulate. Recognize when you're triggered. Breathe, ground yourself. Don't engage until you're calm. I can't stress that piece enough. Don't engage until you're calm. Number 2, clarify the real issue. Ask, what am I really upset about? Focus on the root, not just the surface. So sometimes you may have to ask yourself multiple times, multiple questions, because again, contributing factors and determining factors. A lot of times you ask this question, you're going to answer with a contributing factor. Well, if Mike showed up on time, I would not have to have had, well, no, okay, that might have been a contributing factor, but what made you blow up in the office and cause a big scene? Mike showing up on time didn't make you blow up, right? I'm sorry, Mike being 5 minutes late didn't make you show up. Now, we already know Mike is not going to be late. That's just not in his nature. But, I'm using him as an example. All right, number 3, use our statements. I feel this particular type of way when this behavior happens because of this particular outcome. I need such and such solution. Now, we got to be careful with this because in this, it's easy to blame someone else. So try to, in these parentheses, try to make as much of this about yourself. I feel this way when I behave this way because I believe this is the impact. Impact should be outwardly focused, right? So how does this work? Now I'm owning my own emotions. My emotions is tied to my behavior, not anybody else's behavior. And I recognize the external impact it's either having on, my spouse, the relationship, my coworkers, whatever that looks like. I need said solution does not necessarily say that you know the solution itself, but you might be saying I need this particular outcome. And that outcome can help someone guide you closer to the solution. Okay. Number 4, listen to understand, reflect what you hear, validate, what they feel. Okay. That's another way of saying that you understand. This is where empathy comes in at. Okay. I like to and not do this during my premarital counseling sessions. So I have a card. I'm just this book is going to represent card. Okay. So one side sitting on a table like this, one side says talk, one side says listen. So if this side says talk, this person over here talks, this person has to listen. Once they get finished saying what they say, they can only ask a question. That's the part of listening. Listening means that you can only ask questions to get clarity of understanding. So your question must be about what this person said. Once that person confirms according to what the question was, then the card rotates. So now this person gets to talk and this person that's the conversation is really easy. We make it difficult because we try to control it. Listen to understand. And the only way you know wholeheartedly that you understand what they're saying is asking questions about what they said and they confirm that you actually got it. Okay. Focus on the problem, not the person. I say again, focus on the problem, not the person. I say again, focus on the problem, not the person. I'm going to say it again just in case you didn't hear. Focus on the problem, not the person. Attack the issue, not each other. We do too much of that. Collaborate on a solution. Both people's needs matter. Now, I'm not necessarily a big need guy, right? But I would, if I could adjust that, I would say both people's understanding of a viable solution matters. It has to be advantageous for both parties, not just one. If Mike is the only one benefiting from this conversation, then this conversation is all about Mike. If I'm the only person benefiting from this conversation, it's all about you. But one thing I know, this is one of the reasons why I was excited to talk to this young man, is that our intent is for everybody who is listening to benefit from the conversation. That's how you behave selfless in relationship. It should not be selfish. It has to be selfless. Okay. Last one, follow up, follow through. Words without action mean nothing. Listen, if there was a golden nugget given the entirety of this, besides everything that Mike said, Mike was dropping golden nuggets all day. But if there was another golden nugget, this would be it. Words without action mean nothing. A lot of times we tend to make empty promises and then we go back to the same unorganized, unfiltered, uncircumcised behavior. We have to listen. Like, listen, change behavior is the epitome of active listening. So when we hear what's going on, there must be a behavior change that actually reflects what's actually happening in our relationship. So take Mike's 3 rules for conflict resolution, apply this 7-step conflict resolution framework, and you can, I'm telling you, there's no conflict that you can't overcome. That, my friend, takes us to the last point, the transformation on the other side. What resolved conflicts create? Now, I'm gonna just read a statement because I love how she says this. Brene Brown, and a lot of people are very familiar with who she is. She says vulnerability is the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. It is the source of hope, empathy, accountability, and authenticity. So I just want your feedback, sir. What are your thoughts on vulnerability as the birthplace of love, belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity?
100% agree. I mean, with vulnerability comes authenticity. Like, this is the real me. And actually, in fact, not that long ago, I was talking to my wife about stuff that I was interested in. And I know for a fact she has zero interest in this specific technology stuff.
Sure.
But she was listening because she loves me,
Yeah.
because it was important to me, it was important to her. And later on in the day, I sent her a text and I told her, thank you for listening to me, because like I don't feel judged for being a dork. Like I'm kind of a geek at times. Well, no, I'm most days I am a geek, but like I'll pontificate on something that is of interest to me, and like there is no judgment,
Yeah.
and that vulnerability, it creates trust, but it also creates intimacy. And intimacy is something that, sure, there's such thing as physical intimacy, but emotional intimacy,
Yes.
spiritual intimacy, like it creates something that you can't put a dollar figure on. It's something that has to create. It's only created from vulnerability, and for us as guys, being vulnerable is not something that comes naturally.
Yeah.
Like we're I heard it said this way, and this might resonate with you. Um, I've heard it said that men were like M1 tanks, where on the surface we're indestructible. We'll crash through walls, we'll break down barriers. We are mobile, agile, and hostile. Like we will do some pretty destructive things, and it doesn't phase us, bounces right off of us.
Yeah.
But the most vulnerable part of the M1 tank is on the inside. And if someone is inside the M1 tank and they like move an elbow, they push something that ought not to get pushed,
Hmm.
they can do a lot of damage to the tank or to the environment itself. And us as guys, we're kind of like M1 tanks in that respect, where when someone is on the inside, it's a very, very precious, very valuable place to be. Because like if you and I are critical of each other, it's like, it's like I hear what you're saying, it's okay.
Sure.
But if my wife is critical of me, ooh, it hits differently.
Yeah, man.
Even if she speaks on something that is not as large, as heavy, like if you speak into my life on something that is very deep rooted, like yeah, it'll hit me, but I'll be able to recover from it pretty quickly. But if my wife speaks something into my life, ooh, it rocks me to my core.
Yes, sir.
And that's not necessarily bad. Like that level of vulnerability and intimacy, that's what marriage is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
Like I invest into her, she invests into me. I'm not more important than her, she's not more important than me. We're on the same team. And as time goes on, that intimacy, that vulnerability should dig deeper. And the two of us, we're not going to walk away from this unscathed, and that's that's okay.
Yeah.
Like we are going to be better because of it.
Yeah.
Let what God has brought together, let no man tear asunder.
That's it.
A cord of two or three is so much stronger than one. I'm
Absolutely.
better because my wife holds her ground with me.
Yeah.
She's better because I hold my ground with her.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. We got to keep in mind there's a lot of craziness out in the world, and sometimes you got to protect yourself out there. Sometimes you have to, as they would say, stand your ground. But when it comes down to this relationship, the relationship is the ultimate training ground. Both parties are being trained in relationship, and they're becoming better versions of themselves with the intent on moving closer to God. And ideally, the closer you move to God, the closer you move to one another. And I think
Mhm.
that's the key. And that means that all of the armor that he is wearing, he has to shed it at the front door every day he walks in. All of the protectiveness that she has to go through, she has to not be so protective when she walks in the front door. So now when they come together, it's just them. It's like Adam and Eve in the garden, right? Before they sewed together the fig leaves, right? It's just them bare before God. And I think that's one of the most important things that we need to understand. Vulnerability is not weakness. No, vulnerability itself is strength. It takes a strong person to be vulnerable and allow somebody else in to such a degree that they can actually help them, not just help them accomplish a goal, but help them to become better versions of themselves according to what the scripture says. So that being said, listen, I greatly appreciate you, Mike, man. You've been dropping golden nuggets all day. And I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised. This is what I expected, and you did not disappoint. So thank you, sir, for joining us on this day. And listen, you're welcome to come back anytime you want, man. Anytime you want, you are welcome back.
I had a great time. This was awesome. We need to do this again.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. And in the comment section, make sure that you put a 1 in the comment section if you want to see Mike come back. I don't care if you put a 1 or not, he's coming back. But listen, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And as always, let the best version of yourself be a blessing to somebody else. And we will see you guys next week on Coach's Corner.